Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? It's your boy, the Doc, and we are back for the Week 7 injury update show. Can't believe we're already 7 weeks into the season. If you can't tell, my voice is still kind of shot. I'm not 100% over my own illness, but that's not going to stop me from giving you guys all the injury updates that you need for your fantasy teams. Like always, we'll go through the entire NFL slate, tell you about all the injuries that you need to know about to hopefully win you this week. Let's get into it. All right, so we do have 2 teams on bye this week. We're not going to talk about players from the Bears or the Cowboys just because we're trying to save a little bit of time. And as always, these are projections. It's what I think is going to happen, not a guarantee of what is actually going to happen. Make sure that you check the pinned comment on this video to see official news when it drops. Come back to the video a few times over the weekend because I'll be updating that typically midday Saturday, late Saturday, and then Sunday morning if something big drops by then. And we've got Thursday Night Football to talk about. A lot of guys missing this game due to injury, but the biggest one and probably the biggest fantasy implication is that the Saints wide receiver Rasheed Shaheed is now done for the year with a meniscus tear that required a repair. So Shaheed, if he's on your team, make sure that you're dropping him off of your roster. He is not going to play again this season. Pretty disappointing for a guy that was kind of having a breakout year as the Saints de facto wide receiver 1 to start the season, but he should make a full recovery and be back for the start of the 2025 season. As we head into the Sunday early slate, again, I want to apologize for how broken up this video is going to be. I'm having a hard time throwing together multiple games in a row without my voice cracking or me needing to cough or something like that. So it's going to be a little bit choppier than usual, but we're still going to go through all the games, and we're going to start with Jags versus the Patriots. This is a London game. Jags running back Travis Etienne has a hamstring injury, ? I don't think he's going to be able to play. He practiced on Wednesday, despite the reports that the hamstring issue is considered a week-to-week issue. At least the Jags are used to Etienne being totally absent from the offense at this point. He hasn't really done much in the first 6 weeks of the season. Fun fact, I actually had more yards for the Jags last week than Travis Etienne did. So that's just something to hang your hat on at this point. I don't expect him to play, and even if he does, you'd have to be crazy to be throwing him in your fantasy lineups. But again, London game, so make sure you're waking up early if you're going to set your lineups or set them Saturday night. As for the Patriots, running back Ramondre Stevenson, I don't expect him to be able to play. He's got a foot sprain. Antonio Gibson going to get the bulk of the carries again this week. Quarterback Drake May has a knee issue. He's practicing in full, but he did have an MRI. I didn't see anything about that really showing anything. So Drake May should be able to play again this week. Expect a lot of passes against this Jags secondary. And I think he's streamable. I'm not going to say he's going to be a QB1, but he showed last week he can be a solid QB2 for you if they're going to throw the ball a ton, which it sounds like they will with Ramondre being out. Moving on, Seahawks at the Falcons. Seahawks have a lot of injuries, guys that are important, but no one really fantasy relevant. Falcons don't really have a lot of injuries to talk about. So again, I'm not going to talk about every single player on the graphic for each and every team just for time's sake. But if you have a question, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. Moving on to the Titans at the Bills. Titans running back Tyjae Spears dealing with a hamstring strain. I don't expect him to be able to play this week. He's expected to miss multiple weeks with this hamstring injury. Tony Pollard should be locked into your lineups already, though. He's only had 1 game so far this season with under 15 PPR points. A guy I really like this week to hit his hires on Underdog. Make sure that you head over there. Use the code HEADLINERS when you sign up for up to $1,000 bonus cash on your first deposit, slamming the hire on both Pollard's rushing attempts and yards this week. Again, use the code HEADLINERS when you sign up. And then Bills have running back James Cook, who missed Monday night, late scratch. Hopefully you guys had him out of your lineups or had a backup plan in place. I said there was a chance he could miss that game last week, but he is back practicing in full. Looks like he is going to be able to play for this week. Khalil Shakir also looks like he's on track to play again this week. Dalton Kincaid, not really too worried about him playing. But Ray Davis, the guy who stepped in and had a huge game last week for James Cook in his absence, he's got some calf soreness. He's going to be a game time decision. If he can't go, definitely throwing James Cook back into my lineups. Next up, we got Bengals at the Browns. Bengals don't really have any injuries to talk about. Browns, total opposite side of the coin. They've got 15 players on the injury report. Running back Jerome Ford has a hamstring strain. I don't expect him to be able to play this week. The good news is Nick Chubb is expected to suit up in this game, coming back from the ACL tear, major knee injury last season. I think he's going to be on a snap count, but the team could use him with Jerome Ford not expected to play. And Deonta Foreman, with a groin strain, I think he's going to be able to play in this game. I think we're going to see a lot of him and Pierre Strong. I don't think that we're going to see Nick Chubb as much as some people would want to, but it's good to see him back on the field and playing in some capacity. Moving on to Texans at the Packers. Not a ton of guys to talk about specifically in this game. Most of the big names I expect to play. The Texans have a couple linebackers that I don't expect to play, but Joe Mixon, he's going to be able to play in this game with the ankle injury. He's just missing a little bit of practice time. And then the Packers have a ton of pass catchers that are on the injury report. None of them really that concerning from a return perspective. I don't think any of them are really going to miss this game. Dontavian Wicks is the one guy I'm keeping an eye on. He's got a shoulder sprain. They said it's not as bad as they thought it was, but he's still going to be a game time decision. I'd expect the rest of those wide receivers and the tight end to play for the Packers. Moving on to Dolphins at the Colts. Dolphins running back Devon Achane coming back from the concussion. He's back practicing in full. He should be able to play. Colts have a ton of dudes dealing with injuries right now on the offensive side of the ball. Anthony Richardson has that oblique strain. He is expected to play this week. At this point, I think Joe Flacco has proven he's the better thrower of the two. But Anthony Richardson's the future. You got to get him reps. He's going to be able to play this week, and he's worth throwing into your lineups if you're looking for some rushing upside. Wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. dealing with the back injury. The Colts did pull a little bit of a fast one over the dock last week. They said Pittman could end up on the IR with his back injury. Then he ended up playing in the same week. Fool me once, shame on me. They're trying the same trick again this week. I'm not falling for it. Michael Pittman should be able to play in this game. Wide receiver Josh Downs dealing with the toe issue. I think he's going to be the one that's hurt the most by the quarterback change back to Richardson. He managed to return Friday after not putting together any practices to start the week. I think similar to this week, he's at least practicing in a limited capacity. I don't think there's any chance he misses this game. Hopefully Richardson will look his direction more often. Joe Flacco proved over the last 3 weeks that Downs should be a target hog in this offense. He's always open. Running back Jonathan Taylor still dealing with that high ankle sprain. He's not practicing. Don't expect him to play this week. And then running back Trey Sermon has a knee issue. He had 18 carries last week, but Tyler Goodson nearly doubled his rushing production on less than half as many carries. I think that Trey Sermon, while he is probably going to get the bulk of the work, I think Tyler Goodson is the one. If you're starting one of the two, he's the one that's got a little bit more juice. He's also being used more often in the passing game, which again could be down this week if Anthony Richardson is showing what he showed for the first few weeks of the season, where he's not completing a lot of easy passes. Next up, we got Lions at the Vikings. Lions had the biggest injury of the week from a football perspective. Aiden Hutchinson going down, pretty nasty tibia and fibula fracture. He is done for the year, should be able to return for the start of next season. Disappointing for the Lions and for Hutch. He was on a path to potentially a Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. He was playing out of his mind, so you hate to see a pretty freak accident injury here with Hutchinson. Just know it sounds like his surgery went well. He's got a long road to recovery, about 4 to 6 months, but he should be back for 2025. As for the Vikings, they got running back Aaron Jones dealing with the hamstring strain. He's going to be a game-time decision. He put up a dud last week, being pulled early in the game. It's being described as a hip issue. Now it's being described as a hamstring strain. They said it's not as bad as they thought it was, but I'm still looking at other options this week. He is a high risk for re-injury at this point. It's the second time he's had this injury. Even if he plays, you can't trust him. Tight end TJ Hawkinson coming back from the ACL tear last year. I don't expect him to be able to play this week. He's only 8.5 months out from his ACL tear last season. I'm not sure how the team feels about bringing him back when they're already still winning a ton of games. They haven't needed him. I think it's a few more weeks, maybe even longer, before we see TJ Hawkinson back on the field and playing for our fantasy teams. Now we got Eagles at the Giants. Last game of the early slate, we got Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert dealing with the hamstring strain. Don't expect him to be able to play. Grant Calcaterra stepped in for him in the passing game. Could be streamable this week if you need a tight end option. If you're just really hurting at the tight end position, throw Calcaterra in there. He's going to give you at least a little bit of upside, some touchdown upside as well. For the Giants, we got wide receiver Malik Neighbors coming back from the concussion. He's gotten full practices in this week. Looks like he will be able to return this week as well. And then we got two defenders dealing with major injuries. Well, not major injuries, but at least not practicing injuries. Neither guy practicing. Don't love to see that with Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. But of the two, they have both said actually that they plan on playing on Sunday. So even though they're not practicing, still a chance that they could be able to play. I still got the Eagles by a boatload of points in this game. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to keep up. Going to the midday slate, we got Raiders at the Rams. Raiders running back Zamir White has a groin strain. He's trying to make it back. He's missed a few weeks now. It's going to be a game time decision, but you're not throwing him in your lineup. Wide receiver Jacoby Myers has the ankle sprain. He's going to be out this week. He's not practicing yet. The Raiders offense is looking pretty abysmal. Not a lot of good things coming out of it outside of Brock Bowers, pretty much avoiding everybody. As for the Rams, Cooper Kupp has that high ankle sprain. He got a good practice in early this week. At least opens the door for a chance for him to play this week. If he's playing, you're throwing him into your lineups. As for wide receiver Puka Nacua, he's not even practicing yet. Probably multiple weeks before we see Puka even attempt to play in a game. So you're still holding if you can. If you can trade him away, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I don't think he's going to give you a whole lot for the next probably month. So don't love to see that for Puka. Next up, we got Panthers at the Commanders. Panthers have 22 players on the injury report. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson, though, probably the one we're most concerned about. He has an ankle injury, hasn't practiced yet this week. Going to be a game time decision. It's hard to say, though, if this is really an injury or if it's just veteran rest. He didn't appear to have an injury last week. He hasn't practiced yet this week, so that's pretty concerning. Being listed as an ankle issue, but again, I couldn't find any video of anything that I thought maybe could be leading to this injury. It's possible the team considered trading him. I don't know what the Panthers are doing. They're a total mess at this point. Just keep an eye out if you're planning on starting Deontay Johnson. He's still getting a ton of targets, still streamable as a flex option or a wide receiver 3, just based on volume alone. Running back Jonathan Brooks had his practice window open up for the Panthers. I still think we're a few weeks out before he actually plays, but it's good to see he's at least on track to play at some point this season. As for the Commanders, they got running back Brian Robinson Jr. dealing with that knee injury. He ultimately missed last week, but has gotten limited work in this week. I think there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be able to play. He's on a better path than he was the last 2 weeks where he wasn't practicing at all early in the week. Hopefully he's over this knee issue after the week off. I still think he's kind of a high-risk RB3, which you're really banking on touchdown upside for Brian Robinson Jr. this week. Last game of the midday slate, we got Chiefs at the 49ers. Chiefs wide receiver Rasheed Rice got news that he does have an LCL tear and a hamstring tear. He's done for the year. He's on IR, but over the team's bye, we got that confirmation that he did not actually tear his ACL. So that's the only real good news, as he should be able to make a full recovery and be back well before the start of next season. But the bad news is no Rice for the rest of this year. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, who had the best game that he's had in months, years, when Rice was out in week 5, dealing with a hammy, kind of tweaked it in practice. So we'll see if he's able to play this week. If he is, he's kind of a wide receiver 3 flex option for you. As for the 49ers, they got a lot of guys banged up right now, but Jordan Mason's probably the one that I'm the most concerned about. He's got an AC sprain. He injured his shoulder, attempted to return, then left again. So it's not as bad as the team initially feared that it was. So there's at least a chance he could play, but I think that there's a better chance that he misses than he actually plays. It's still kind of that 50-50 mark. I'd say probably closer to 60-40 that he doesn't play. Isaac Guerrero would come in and start if Mason can't go, but the team will use a variety of backs with Jordan Mason potentially out this week. They don't have a kicker. Jake Moody has a high ankle sprain, so we don't like to see that either. If you planned on him being your kicker, just know he's expected to miss multiple weeks with that high ankle injury. Next up, we got Sunday Night Football. Jets at the Steelers. Jets wide receiver Devontae Adams coming back from his hamstring strain. He's expected to play this week. Mike Williams, well, he's just kind of the odd man out at this point. He is missing time in practice due to personal issues. I don't know if he's going to be active at all this week. Probably not throwing him in your lineup. As for the Steelers, they don't have anyone that's really like super fantasy relevant. So just read the graphic and see my projections on that. We're going to head straight into Monday Night Football. We got a doubleheader on Monday night. Ravens at the Bucs first. Ravens pretty healthy. Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans dealing with a hamstring issue. He's going to be a game time decision. He didn't practice on Thursday, but it doesn't sound like this is a major deal where he's going to miss multiple weeks. It could be just this week. Have a plan ready if you're planning on starting him this week, because there is a chance that he could be a late scratch like we saw with James Cook last week. Running back Rachaad White with a foot sprain. I don't think that he's going to be able to play this week. They technically had him practicing on Thursday, but it was just a walkthrough. Like last week, I'm not convinced that I think that Rachaad White is actually able to play in this game. I'm also not really convinced that he would start even if he was healthy. Both Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker putting up huge numbers last week. He's best left on the bench this week, even if he is playing. Rachaad White, get him out of your lineups. Final game of the week, Chargers at the Cardinals. Chargers have a couple wide receivers that are banged up but should play. But the Cardinals wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. coming back from the concussion. He's going to be a game time decision. Now, normally what we see is that with a concussion, guys just don't play the next week. With him playing on Monday, there's at least a chance he could play. I still think it's a better chance that he doesn't. But he did technically get a limited practice in on Thursday, which is what we used to see when guys would be able to come back in just a week. So it didn't look like he had a horrible hit to his head. It's possible that he had a really mild concussion, and that's why he left. But again, I think you should have a plan in place if you're planning on playing Marvin Harrison Jr. on Monday night, coming off a concussion, where we almost never see guys play the week after they have a concussion. All right, guys, that's it for this week's injury update show. Maybe by next week, I'll be healthy, hopefully, and get over whatever is trying to kill me right now. If you guys get a chance, like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out a ton, and it's totally free to do. Hit the join button, become a member of Headliner Nation, where you can get access to everybody on the channel 24/7 every day of the week to help you make fantasy decisions and start sit decisions and really just hopefully win your league. We love the community that we have over at Headliner Nation on the Discord, so make sure you hit that join button. But guys, my voice is about to give out, so I'm going to call it quits here. If you have any comments, let me know down below if there's somebody that I missed, and we will see you guys next week.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.